Welcome to Whispers from the Cottage, a quiet place where stories are told not to be finished, but to help you softly drift away. My name is Marit, and tonight I've prepared a story for you not to think about, but to feel. A story that speaks to the tired parts of you, the parts that have carried too much for too long. This is not a story you have to follow. You don't need to remember the details. There's nothing to achieve here, only space to exhale. Tonight's story holds a gentle truth about conflict, stress, and the weight we carry when we try to stay strong for everyone else. But slowly, as the words flow like a river, you'll be invited to soften, to release, and maybe even to remember what it feels like to rest without resistance. So, wherever you are, lie back, get comfortable, and let the quiet find you. There are no ads, no interruptions, just the steady rhythm of story and breath. The path is waiting. Let's begin. She didn't remember when she first picked it up. Not exactly. There had been no ceremony, no moment of clear choice. No one had handed her the weight and said, "Here, this is yours now." It was simply there. At first, she thought it was part of growing up, like learning to read, like knowing when to speak and when to stay quiet. A quiet stone resting just beneath her ribs. Warm some days, but most often cold. Not painful, just heavy. She never told anyone about it, because no one else ever spoke of theirs. But she could see it in their bodies, in their eyes. The villagers were kind. They smiled. They helped each other. They shared bread in winter and stories in summer. But there was always something beneath it all, a certain hush between breaths, a stiffness in the shoulders, a silence in the way they looked down before speaking, as if everyone carried something they had simply learned not to mention. She grew up in a small cottage near the edge of the valley, where the trees whispered secrets to each other and the river could be heard only when you listened. Her grandmother had once lived in the same home, and though the woman could not remember her clearly, she always imagined the scent of lavender came from her hands. There were herbs drying above the stove, books with soft spines, and a chair by the window that always stayed warm, even when the fire had long gone out. It was a quiet home, and for a long time she thought the quiet was peace. But now she knew it had also been a place to carry things silently. As she grew, so did the stone, not in size, but in weight. At first, it was something she noticed only in the still moments, while waiting in line, while brushing her hair, while standing alone in the field behind her home, watching the sky turn colors no one had names for. But over time, it followed her everywhere. She walked slower, breathed shallower, smiled with only part of her mouth, and though no one asked why, they often said things like, "She's quiet, that one. She's always been strong. She knows how to carry herself." And so she believed them. She believed that carrying it well was the same as being well. She never asked for help, not because she didn't want it, but because she didn't know how to ask without making the weight more real. And what if naming it meant she had to keep it forever? So instead, she kept herself busy. She tended to the garden, learned to fix the broken shutters, volunteered at the school to read to children. She cooked hearty stews and gave away extra loaves of bread. People smiled when she passed. They called her generous. But in the dark, when the house had gone still, she would lie in bed and feel the weight pressing into her chest like something alive. And she would whisper, "Maybe tomorrow it will be lighter." Years passed. She grew older, but the weight never changed. And somewhere along the way, she stopped hoping I would. She simply adapted, like everyone else seemed to. As he added extra folds to her shawl, adjusted how she stood, and learned how to breathe around it without making a sound, she forgot what it was like to feel light. Not happy, she could still feel joy, still laugh at small things, but lightness that had become something for birds, for songs, for children, not for her, not anymore. Then one day, something happened. It was a simple thing, so small it might have gone unnoticed, but it didn't. She was walking through the town square, carrying a basket of fresh apples, when her foot caught a stone she hadn't seen. She didn't fall, not completely, just stumbled. The apples spilled across the dirt road, and in that moment, as she knelt to gather them, a deep, tired ache rose from inside her chest. Not from the stumble, but from everything she'd never said aloud. She stayed there a moment longer than she needed to. Let her hands rest on the earth. Let her breath catch in her throat. And then a voice beside her said, "You're strong." She looked up. It was an old neighbor gathering apples for her. He smiled gently. We all carry things. And for the first time, instead of nodding, she asked herself, do we have to? That night, she sat in her favorite chair, the one by the window. She didn't read. She didn't sip tea. She just sat, hands resting in her lap, and stared at the stars. And slowly, a single question rose from somewhere deep within her, a place even the stone hadn't touched. What would happen if I put it down? Not forever, not even far, just for a little while. She placed her hand over her chest, felt the familiar shape, the old, cold weight, and whispered not to anyone, but to herself, "Maybe tomorrow I'll try." She woke before the sky turned blue, before the kettle whistled, before the birds sang. The world was still wrapped in that silver grey quiet that only happens before dawn, the time when nothing asks anything of you. She didn't light a lamp. She moved by memory, her hands finding the shawl on the back of the chair, her boots by the door, her breath calm but different. She wasn't sure why today felt like the day. There was no sign, no voice, no sudden clarity, just the soft sense that the question from the night before had decided to become an action. She didn't pack a satchel. She didn't bring food or a walking stick. Only one thing rested in her palms, the stone. She held it now, for the first time not tucked inside, not hidden behind ribs or breath, but in full view of the morning. It looked small in her hands, ordinary, not the monster she had imagined it might be, but it was heavy, heavier than its size allowed, as if it had absorbed every moment she'd ignored for her own voice, every silence that felt like safety. She stepped out into the cold. The sky hadn't decided on a color yet. Mist hovered over the grass like a breath held too long. She didn't look back at the cottage. There was nothing there she didn't already know. The path behind her home led through the thicket, past the stone wall with the wild roses, down toward the river trail, a path she hadn't walked since she was a child. Back then, she used to collect acorns and follow dragonflies and pretend the world could hear her thoughts. She stepped carefully now, not because she feared the ground, but because this walk felt like something sacred. The stone warmed in her hands as she walked, or maybe it was her hands warming to it, a final offering of kindness before goodbye. The sound of the river came slowly, not as a rush, but as a hum, a whisper through the trees, familiar and new all at once. She remembered now how the river had always waited, even when I forgot about it, even when life had pulled her in other directions. It had never left, and now it welcomed her without question. She stepped onto the mossy riverbank. The mist curled over the surface like smoke from another world. The water moved gently, not still, not rushing, just aware. She stood for a moment, feet planted in the cold, damp earth, stone held before her like an offering. No one was watching. There was no audience, no ceremony, no voice to say, "Now is the time." Only the the steady rhythm of the water, and her breath finally honest, she looked down at the stone in her hands. It wasn't broken, it wasn't beautiful, it was just what it was, what it had always been. But for the first time, she saw it not as a part of herself, but as something she had picked up, something she had carried, something that could be let go. Her fingers tightened around it one last time. She knelt at the river's edge. The water touched the tips of her boots. It was cold, but not harsh, like a truth you've been waiting to hear. She placed the stone gently into the water, not thrown, not tossed, not rejected, placed with reverence, with tenderness, like setting a sleeping child down in a cradle. The water moved around it, cradled it, and carried it just slightly out of her reach. She didn't cry, she didn't speak, but something inside her unclenched. The silence afterward was profound, not empty, full. Her body felt different, not weightless, but real. She touched her chest, felt only skin, only warmth. The space the stone had lived in for so long was now hers. Not hollow, not aching, just open. She sat by the river for a long time, long enough for the mist to lift, long enough for the light to catch on the water and turn it silver. Birds returned to the trees. A squirrel chattered somewhere nearby, and the breeze carried the smell of pine. The world had not changed. Not really, but she had. She walked home slowly, not because she was tired, but because her body was remembering what it felt like to move without the weight. The breeze touched her skin like a question. Now what? She didn't know. But for the first time, not knowing didn't scare her. Back at the cottage, she made tea. She lit one candle. She sat in her chair by the window, and for a long time she did nothing. Not out of laziness, but because nothing needed doing. Her breath was enough. Her presence enough. The fire crackled softly in the hearth. The cup in her hands was warm, and outside the world turned slowly without asking her to hold it. She didn't write in her journal that night. She didn't try to explain what had happened. But just before sleep, she whispered a sentence into the dark. I don't know who I'll be without it, but I'm ready to find out. She didn't expect anything to change. Not really. After all, she had simply done what felt right. No one had seen, no one had asked. She thought she'd return to her cottage and life would carry on exactly as before, but it didn't. The first shift came not from others, but from herself. She moved through the house as if the air had softened. as if the walls had taken a deep breath in her absence and now exhaled slowly around her. She walked differently. Not faster, not slower, just without bracing. Her hands, once clenched around teacups and to-do lists, now rested openly in her lap. And her voice, when she spoke aloud, had a warmth she hadn't noticed before. Not louder, not clearer, but less afraid of its own sound. Outside, the village was just waking. Windows opened with creaks and sighs. Chickens rustled in their coops. A child laughed somewhere down the hill. She wrapped her shawl over her shoulders and stepped onto the path that led to town. She hadn't meant to go anywhere. She just wanted to walk, to feel her body move through the world without resistance. And the world, in turn, seemed to open gently for her. At the markets, people moved as they always had. They chatted in clusters, bartered for fresh herbs, shared news in soft, familiar tones. But as she passed, there were pauses, not stares, not whispers, just hesitations, as if they felt something but couldn't name it, as if her presence tugged gently at something unspoken in them. She smiled at the baker, and he blinked before nodding, a heartbeat late. The woman at the wool stall said, "You look different today," then quickly added, "Did you change your hair?" She hadn't. She simply replied, "I let go of something I didn't know I was holding." The woman tilted her head, said nothing more. But her hands slowed as she wrapped yarn, and her eyes followed the woman long after she turned away. The whispers didn't start immediately. They came in pockets, gentle, curious, uncertain. "She seems lighter, doesn't she? Like the wind isn't pushing against her anymore. Did something happen?" Some said it with kindness, some with suspicion. Some said nothing, but avoided her eyes. And yet others came closer, not to ask, but to be near whatever it was she had stepped into. A few days later, an old man approached her as she watered the lavender. He held his hat in both hands. His shoulders were tense, his eyes unsure. "You've always been strong," he said. "People notice." She looked up from the soil, waited. "But now it's like you don't need to prove it anymore." She didn't speak, only listened. He hesitated. "Do you feel different?" She nodded. "Not stronger, just real." The man swallowed hard, then left without another word. But the next morning, a small bouquet of wild flowers appeared on her doorstep. No note, just presents. Children were the first to understand. Not with words, but with instinct. They began visiting her garden, offering her drawings, pebbles, questions. One sat beside her on the stone bench and asked, "Did you drop something? You feel quieter now." She smiled. "Yes," she whispered, "and I didn't break." One evening, a young mother stopped by. She looked tired in a way that couldn't be explained by lack of sleep. Her eyes were sharp, but far away. She carried a basket, but it was empty. She didn't ask for anything. She just stood by the gate and said, "I saw you walking the other day. You weren't looking down anymore." The woman nodded. The mother asked, "How?" She gestured toward the path behind the house. "There's a river. I left it there." The mother laughed softly, but it caught in her throat like a sob. "I don't even know what mine is," she said. "You will?" the woman replied, "when it's ready to leave you." The mother blinked back tears, and for the first time in years, her shoulders dropped a little. Just a little, but enough. As weeks passed, more people began to come. Not with declarations, not with confession, just with presence. Some brought bread, some brought silence. One older woman said, "I've carried my stone so long, I think it's changed shape." The woman replied, "That's how you know it's no longer yours." She never preached. She never told people what to do. She boiled tea. She offered cushions. She let silence stretch between them like a river they could step into when they were ready. And sometimes they would speak, not to her, not exactly, but to the space they hadn't known they were allowed to enter. She still returned to the river, not every day, but often. She never searched for the stone. She didn't wonder where it had gone, because in truth, the river hadn't taken it. She had made the choice, and the river had simply said, "Thank you." One morning, as she sat beneath the willow tree near her cottage, a little boy approached. He held out a stone, palm open. It was smooth and light gray, with a crack running through the center. "Mine split," he said. "Does that mean it's broken?" She looked at it carefully, then smiled. "Maybe it means it's ready to become something else." Not everyone understood. Not everyone came. Some still looked away. Some doubled down on the weight they carried, made it shinier, told themselves it mattered more. That was okay. She had no need to convince. She had learned that letting go was not about changing others. It was about becoming a mirror they didn't know they needed. And in her reflection, some of them saw something they had forgotten existed. A version of themselves, unburdened, unrushed, unbroken. The change didn't come with a bang. No dramatic thunderstorm. No sudden realization, not even a noticeable shift in the weather. It came in whispers. A slower sunrise, the feeling that the wind no longer pushed but passed, that silence no longer pressed in on her but wrapped around her like a soft shawl. The trees outside her cottage shed the last of their dried leaves, not with grief but with ease. And when the wind lifted them into the air, it felt like a celebration, not a loss. Even the birds returned differently now. Not as an alarm clock, not as a reminder of things to do, but as an invitation to simply notice the day arriving. She began to wake up earlier, not out of obligation, but because her body wanted to be part of the morning. She would stretch slowly beneath the woven blanket, run her fingers along the old wooden frame of her bed, and sit for a while at the edge without rushing. She watched the light move across the room. It painted the same walls she had seen every day, but now they looked new, almost like they belonged to someone who had never forgotten how to see. She didn't check a list. There was no list. Some days she swept the porch. Other days she didn't. Some days she made bread. Other days she only drank tea and sat with both hands wrapped around the warm mug as if it were holding her back. And still, nothing felt wasted, because nothing was being measured anymore. One morning, she noticed the lavender had returned. It pushed gently through the soil, even though she hadn't tended it in months. She knelt beside it, fingers brushing the new green, and whispered, "You came back." It didn't answer. It didn't need to. She was learning that not everything that heals you has to speak your language. She began opening all the windows, even when the air was still cold, letting the breeze move through the house like a visitor with stories of other places. She didn't fill the rooms with things. She removed things. A dusty bowl, a cracked lamp she'd been meaning to fix for years, a box of scarves she hadn't worn since before the wait began. Each time something left the cottage, something lighter entered. Not a thing, just a feeling. Stillness no longer felt like absence. It felt like room. Room to breathe, room to notice, room to not be anything for anyone. She didn't realize how many years she had spent trying to fill the silence, until she found herself craving it. Now, she would sit for whole hours listening to nothing and feel more connected than she ever had in the busiest conversations. She took slow walks, not to go anywhere, just to be somewhere on purpose. She walked with bare hands, letting her fingers trail along bark, stone walls, cold iron fences warmed by the sun. She stopped to watch ants carry food, to watch clouds turn pink, to feel the hum of the earth beneath her feet and inside her chest. Sometimes she saw others from the village. Most of them smiled, now softer smiles than before. One of the school teachers called across the road, "Oh, you always look like you're just back from somewhere sacred." She only smiled. There were no right words. There didn't need to be. The garden, untended, flourished. Wild mint climbed into the cracks between stones. Bees danced drunkenly around rosemary blooms. Even the stubborn patch of soil beneath the back window had begun to give way to life. She didn't plant anything. Not because she didn't want to, but because this season wasn't about effort. It was about permission. Permission for the land to do what it already knew how to do without her managing it. Inside, she moved slowly. She dusted the shelf, not because it was dirty, but because her hand simply went there. She made tea, not because she needed comfort, but because the sound of the kettle and the scent of the leaves was a kind of prayer. She wrote in her journal, but without trying to make meaning. Sometimes just words: blue, light, crackling fire, breath, stillness. Sometimes a question: if nothing asked anything of me, who would I be? And occasionally a single sentence that made her pause. Maybe this is who I was before the stone. In the evenings, she no longer waited for sleep. It came easily, softly, like an old friend slipping into the room without needing to be introduced. She would light a single candle, watch it flicker, feel the flicker in her chest, and say nothing at all. No affirmations, no mantras, just trust. One day, she walked to the far edge of the village, where the trees opened wide, into the field she hadn't stepped in since she was a child. There, she found the hollow log she used to hide inside when her feelings grew too big to carry. It was smaller now, or maybe she was bigger. Either way, it no longer fit her body. But she knelt beside it and ran her fingers along the bark and whispered, "Thank you for holding me when I didn't know how to hold myself." Then she stood and walked on. That evening, a little boy knocked on her door. He didn't say hello. He simply said, "My mother says you know how to feel better." She invited him in, made warm milk with honey. They sat together without speaking. Eventually, he said, "Sometimes my chest feels like it's full of rocks." She nodded. "Mine used to too." He looked at her. "Did you drop them?" She shook her head. "No, I let them float." He didn't understand, but he remembered it anyway. Later that week, she found a stone on her doorstep. It was smooth, painted with yellow flowers, and had a note tied around it. I wanted you to have this one instead. No name, just a gift. She placed it on the windowsill where the light could find it in the morning. It stayed there as a reminder that not all stones are meant to weigh us down. Some arrive just to make us smile. That night, she wrapped herself in a warm blanket, sat by the fire, and let herself drift. Not into sleep, not yet, but into something even older than that. Rest. The kind of rest that comes when your body is no longer bracing and your spirit is no longer hiding. The kind that needs no explanation. She didn't know what would come next. She didn't care. For now, there was tea and breath and the faint sound of the wind sifting through the trees outside. And that was enough. It was raining. Not the kind that demanded attention, but the kind that whispered softly against the windows, like a lullaby only the sky could sing. She stood at the table by the window, watching the drops race each other to the sill. Her hands rested on the worn wood, the smell of chamomile still lingering from her teacup. Something inside her stirred, not urgent, but ready. She opened the drawer of her grandmother's writing desk, the one she hadn't touched in months, and took out a single sheet of parchment. Then she sat and began to write. She didn't know who the letter was for. There was no name, no address, no plan to send it. But as her pen moved across the page, her heart softened. Line by line, she poured something quiet onto the paper. Not an explanation, not advice, just a remembering. Dear soul, if you are reading this, then maybe, just maybe, you've grown tired of carrying something that was never yours to begin with. I don't know your weight, but I know this: there is a place beneath the noise, a place that doesn't care what you've achieved, or how long you've been strong, or how many times you smiled when you wanted to cry. That place still remembers you, the real you, the one before the stone, the one beneath the silence. Go there, even if just for a breath, even if just in your mind. Imagine a river. Imagine the sound it makes when no one is watching. And then gently imagine setting the weight down. No drama, no need to explain, just release. It may not leave all at once. You may pick it back up again. That's okay. It's the trying that matters, not the perfection. And if no one's told you this lately, you don't have to earn rest. You don't have to deserve softness. You are not here to carry everything alone. Let the wind take what you no longer need. Let the fire warm what's left. and let your breath remind you you're still here. And that is enough. With love. Someone who once carried something too. She folded the letter slowly, pressed it between her palms, then slipped it into a small wooden box lined with dried lavender and one silver button. She didn't seal it, didn't lock it. She simply let it be. Maybe one day someone would find it. Maybe no one ever would. But the words had been spoken, and that was all that mattered. That night, as the rain softened into mist, she lit a single candle by her bedside. The flame danced gently, casting slow shadows across the ceiling. She lay down, not with tiredness, but with readiness, ready to be held, not by arms, but by the stillness she had once been afraid of. No dreams visited her that night, only peace, only quiet. And in the morning, when she woke, the weight was still gone. Not because it had disappeared, but because she had stopped feeling it. And in its place was something new. Room, lightness, a deep remembering of how it felt to belong fully to her own breath. Epilogue for you, dear listener. And now, dear listener, your own feet have found this path. Maybe just barely, maybe halfway through the forest, but still here you are. And that is something. You don't have to finish the story. You don't have to carry it with you. Let the words drift. Let them become soft echoes in your chest. Let them carry you the way the river carries the stones. Not because they are broken, but because they are ready to move on. You are not behind. You are not too much. You are not the problem. You are the field after winter. You are the breath that didn't need permission. You are the letter meant only for you that says you were always enough, and now you are free to rest. Sleep well, the story is done, and you are home.